in with her this morning too, and she's just getting us live on us live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and get us there. But of course, you should always be listening to WAT 99 because we have the South Shore. I'd say all of Massachusetts. I'm going for it.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
don't know about that, Sharon. That's very kind.
Well,
Thank
you know what? I think that they just don't know how great you are. I'm letting everybody know. So, good morning, Tim. How was your
Good morning, Sharon.
Thanksgiving?
It was really nice. Thank you. Yeah. We had our parents over and lots of good food and stories. It was a really nice time. How was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, great. And you know, it's fun to hear stories, even if they're repeat stories
Yep.
or whatever. You know what I mean? It's still the
Mhm.
stories that make you smile and laugh and all that. So, who does all the cooking, you
Yes.
or Joel?
Joel does the cooking. I help with
The
setup
cleaning?
and a little bit of cleaning. His mom's just going to just and dish,
Yeah.
and then is this cleanse? I don't know. I think so. Yeah.
When you said jumps into the sink, and I'm so used to what like everything is AI now. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm
Right.
just when you said jump into
You
the
thought
sink.
she physically jumped into the
Yeah,
thing?
I was picturing Joel's mom jumping into the
She's like
sink.
one of the babies
Oh.
taking a bath in the sink.
Yeah. Right.
So, in your Thanksgiving, Mel?
Yeah, we had a great Thanksgiving. Small. We went to eat parents and it was just four, but it was great. We, had lots of yummy food, and of course, we got sent home with our and lots
Oh,
of
your own
sides.
full turkey?
Yeah,
Oh, for you.
yeah,
Jeez.
it was the
Yeah.
same last year. So I'm gonna make a
Wow.
soup, and yeah, so we had a really great time, and then we all made gingerbread houses. That's gonna be our new tradition. We decorated gingerbread houses, and then just had a great time. Watched football.
Now,
Now,
were they traditional gingerbread houses or were they like a special one? Because I was in the store the other day and they've got your average gingerbread
yeah,
houses, but then they have, I guess you call them the commercial gingerbread
yeah.
houses. Like you can make a Bruce Wayne Manor for Batman. I
Oh,
saw, yeah. And God, what else did I see? And it's like, oh, that's fun. But
yeah, so Ethan, Wendy, and we had traditional ones, and then Bill, Ethan's father, had a tractor and barn. So
oh, cool.
he had a fun little one, and we all decorated them, and we'll leave them outside for the critters to eat and have some fun. So, but it was great. Yeah, we had a pretty relaxing time. And then yesterday, I just sort of around the house and we decorated for Christmas. We put our tree up and everything. So it's fun.
Good for you.
Yeah, I know you're a humbug. You don't put your tree up.
Well,
Well, you
we
get a real
plan it.
tree.
Well, we usually do, but with this will be our first year. And so, because I bought
Oh,
one at the end of the season last year. So we were thinking yesterday. Well, one nice thing about Thanksgiving is it's about the
yeah.
people and the food and all that. And then yesterday was leftovers. Like I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the leftover. I tend to eat more than I do on Turkey Day just
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
you're so busy. But I said I woke up yesterday and didn't have anything I had to do.
Yeah.
What a feeling that is,
Yeah.
huh?
We
Yeah,
ate.
look at even Tim is like, oh yeah. Yeah, baby,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
you're speaking my language. It just felt good. I didn't have to put out the trash even because it was a day
Mm-hmm.
late,
Yeah. Yeah, Ethan works yesterday, and I just sort of did things. I got rid of my summer clothes, brought my winter clothes up, and I have 4 bags of donations. Just going through, just need to get rid of some stuff, and then I brought all the Christmas stuff up once Ethan was working. He was working from home, and we decorated, and we had
Nice.
leftovers and lots of pie and
Yummy.
everything.
And here we are
And
back
here we
at it
are.
on Saturday and live, and you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Again, I'm Sharon McNamara with my sidekick, Melissa Wallace. And of course, we have Tim McKinney in studio at WTD. If you want to share your favorite part of yesterday, feel free. I mean, it's just sort of one of those lazy Saturdays. And don't forget about your small stores and small businesses on Saturday.
Mhm.
Right. So go visit all of that as well. Yeah, call in 781-374-900. 781-7400. You can either call in if you want to say hello to us, or you can text at the same number and Tim will get you over to us. And this is the this topic. Do listeners know what we're discussing today?
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about why a property would stay on the market, as opposed to some other ones that, sort of sell quickly. Um, but we're just going to go through some of the reasons why some properties stay on the market longer than others. It just, I know we talked a few weeks ago, maybe we did like 2 weeks worth of shows of, just going through, okay, now's a great time to sell, and things like that. But, just going through the market and what's sort of going on right now, there are some properties that are sitting, and we'll sort of go through the reason. And pretty much it comes down to, pricing according to time you come on the market, what's your
Mhm.
motivation, things like that. But we'll get more specific too.
All right, perfect. So, I know that, there are situations. I was actually having a conversation yesterday. As much as I didn't have anything I had to do yesterday, I did make a couple phone calls and I did do a couple things on my computer because, hey, I was just home and I was doing it at my pace. And I was speaking to a client who was looking at a property, and it's a property that's in a well known sort of development in this area and sort of a community. And one of the caveats of living in this neighborhood is that when you go to sell your house, you have to be on the market with them
Mhm.
for minimally 60 days
Mhm.
before you can put it out on the market with anybody, which to me, hmm, eh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'm the buyer's agent. I'm helping my client find a house. I can't understand you can put that stipulation in there that your sales team is the one if they decide in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years that you're the one that will be helping my client at that time. I don't really like that, but those rules they by their rules. It's that right.
Yeah, I mean, I more don't like that in the sense of like it's not broadcasted to the general public unless you're
Mm,
specifically looking in that area and
mm,
only that area. So I think that, if you can be quote unquote, if you're watching us on social media, and have my air quotes, if you could be on the market for 60 days, get no offers and not a lot of activity, it's because you're not being showcased in the same light as where, normal, MLS and things like that.
mhm. Oh, I just choked on nothing. I just couldn't find us on Instagram. Sorry about that, Mel.
So worries.
Oh, right there. Okay, there we are. Well, maybe not. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah. So that is the situation, and plays. You have to be on the market for 60 days, and I also think that that's a service to people. And I think when you have those types of things, those rules and regulations and things like that, I just feel as if it isn't really fair to the general public either,
Mhm.
because my clients have interest in a property down in that area, and it's like you have to make the phone calls, which again, as a listing agent, as a listing agent, and
Yeah.
I understand what's going on. The general public probably does not know what's going on in there. So, you have to make the time to call the listing agent on it. But when I'm looking for somebody as a buyer's agent, I'm also pulling comparisons, right? And if
Yeah.
I can't see that that house has already been on the market for 60 days, I don't think that that's really fair to a consumer.
Yeah. Oh, come in and show the property we had it was
Yeah, we do.
we're pretty hip and we get that. So, what do you think that about gonna the market for 60 days and
What's
have
wrong with
yeah, well, I'm gonna go at full price?
exactly? That's the
Which I think that that's a disservice to the seller.
mhm. Which again, conversation is I understand that the rules you have to play by their rules when you
Mhm.
move into their neighborhoods, but does the person who's buying it really the consequences of that. Because if you think about it, we're in a market right now that isn't really struggling. I feel like it's starting to a bit,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Unlike, my friends, of course, I have a bunch of, clients throughout the country that I am on Clubhouse with. And, Florida, dead. Mackenzie just bought a house in Texas, much inventory, and
Mhm.
it is moving. So, a situation like that and add days to the front of it, I think that, has to be consequences for trying to get their house sold.
Yeah. Like I said, there's so many different factors to why, and we call it days on market.
DOMs.
So it's the days literally on the market, and the general public is that there's so many different reasons. And from the I'm sort of familiar with, I did, but when I came up with the idea for the show, I just thought, okay, well, the reason market. Oh, you guys with your enemy, you guys are good.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, like, as you know, if I was listening to I don't gauge my numbers. I gauge my success by how happy my clients are. And so a lot of estate
mhm,
agents like, I sold this many houses this year. Who actually cares? Like,
yeah,
well, so what? So what? Doesn't matter. If you sold two and your clients were super happy and you sold 30 and everybody thought you stunk,
yeah,
and what's it really matter? Those of accolades at a girl, you know what I mean? One different agents, which I think is great. I didn't have the most success when you sort of jam with the right. Tell me what your DOM is. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so funny to me because like an average,
who
yeah,
says that?
who says that? No one says DOM. No, what's your DOM? And I was like, okay, so they were was clearly talking to another agent,
Mhm,
and made it a big deal, and clearly probably that I was going to as well,
mhm,
and knows I have a high days on market. And the reason why I have a high days on market statistic is because I do a lot of new construction. So if you think about Coach Estates in West Bridgewater, which we're sort of winding down, we just opened up our final phase over there,
mhm,
phase 3. And but we still have, I want to say, like 18 homes left over there to sell. But we've been there for what, 2 years,
yeah,
or more. You so we have this in before we have ones where our model locating us and in different things that really matter
mhm,
as a listing agent. Now, if you want to pull out my days on market, my new construction versus my,
resale,
resale, and I would say that I'm probably above
mhm,
or within par of what everybody else is. I said within par, and I have no idea what that means. I've
within
never
par.
golfed. I've never golfed. Isn't that a golf term?
Yeah, like par, like if it's a par 3,
Par.
you
Yeah, but
should be able to make it in 3,
yeah, well, whatever.
okay, right? I don't
So
know.
my point of that is I'm guessing that my day market are very much in line with what everybody else's are. So
Yeah. Let's talk about timing the market. So, I when do you think is the right time to sell? I'll tell you that, or I'll ask you that. And, think is best, and when do they not shine the best?
well, we sort of talked about this a couple weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
And one of the things that we said is really there is, in my opinion, there is no good time. It matters what your motivation is, right? So if you really want to get your house sold, put it on whenever. Right now, I don't think it's a bad idea to put a house on the market right now. I'm going to be putting one on the market probably next week, any too, right? You can't get one thing I know for sure is you cannot get your home sold if it is not on the market, right?
Mhm.
And again, when days on market don't matter. They don't matter. If you're working with a buyer's agent and you notice that a house has been on the market for a long time, tell your buyer's agent, please call the listing agent. Well, first of all, you shouldn't even have to tell your agent what to do. So if you need a good buyer's agent, call us here at Boston Connect and we'll hook you up with one of the best on the South Shore because we have 28 of them, right?
Yeah.
So if the days on market, as an agent who's been doing it for 4 years, I can look at a listing and see it's been on the how long it's in the market. I can also see it's been that long. So I listed in the market this week. Chances are it's because it's closer to the holidays.
Yeah.
I think the buyers tend to sort of peel back a little bit because they have FOMO. What if, and you had a little bit of this, and I saw Mackenzie had a little bit about this. And my client right now that I'm working with that's looking down in Plymouth, I'm like, if you put it, they don't want to close until later next year, into first quarter. If another one comes on the market, are you going to be disappointed, right?
Yeah.
So I think that buyers always, when they see limited inventory in the fall and in the winter, they think, well, let me just wait until the spring things come on the market. Well, for seller, you must be one of more,
Yeah.
right? And if your days on market are longer, I had a client who said to me, I think I'm going to be ready to take my house off the market and wait through the holidays. Not a great idea. Dude, no, we talk depth, right? No
Mhm.
one's going to bother you for a showing if they're not serious.
Yeah. This isn't so spring, we would say historically the busiest season. So you would be one of many if you are a listing.
Uh-huh.
So that offers peak exposure and also strong competition because
Yes.
you have you're one of many instead of one of less.
Exactly. And if our market switches the way that other markets have, and one of the things that I'm going to be sort of looking at a little bit further, and I maybe will ask if I can do a show with my brother in law or my niece. Because they're really good at the finance aspect of things and job markets and all of that, is how that impacts our life as in real estate. And I did notice what it was just. I saw like 123,000 layoffs in Massachusetts last month. Um, as we're seeing, a couple things might happen. One, we might see more houses come on the market because unfortunately people won't be able to afford their house, but they won't also be able to move out of our right? And they're going to
Mhm.
go to a place like, I don't know where, Montana, Tennessee,
Yeah.
Louisiana, like those types of
Yeah.
places.
I would be interested statistic out there to know like how soon after somebody loses a job like that, how soon would they have to sort of make the decision to sell their home or
Hmm.
move out of state.
Yeah.
And it would definitely depend on like how much they've had saved, how hard
Yeah.
they're working to find another job and things like that.
Well, everybody should. I mean, I do not work for McNamara Financial. They definitely take care of all my stuff, but I know I listen to them enough to say, you should have 6 months reserve in the bank at all times if anything should go the wrong way.
hmm Getting back to season, so midsummer can be slow during vacations.
Mm.
Fall markets can be strong, but interest statistically drops after mid-November.
Can we back up to the summer though?
Yeah.
Because one of the things I want to say about the summer is, yes, it definitely slows down when we're around 4th of July. That seems to be the month that everybody is, those first couple weeks, especially. And I know because that's when I'm vacationing as well. But but also we have a little bit of a rise with certain demographics because they're trying to get their kids into a
hmm
new house before the school starts. So we'll, maybe like the beginning of the summer, like late spring, early summer, then a little bit of a break, and then it will pull up again. And then it's one of those, I close in 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we see a trend of quicker closings during that. But
Oh,
winter listings may have fewer buyers, but more motivated
yeah,
ones.
100%. And two, I think that people think that the sellers are more motivated. And that's a common conversation that I have with my clients that are selling their home is that, well, I don't want anyone to think that I have to sell, that my motivation is that strong. And that's why I'm on the market in the winter. That's why you need a very strong listing agent because I feel as if me having anybody
Yeah.
who sees any of my properties, I call. Hey, I see that you set up an appointment to see my property. Can I tell you a few things about it? Hey, my client came on the market. I don't want you to think them being on the market right now is motivation driven.
Yeah. A couple buyer behavior trends. So back to school season,
Yep.
that motivates buyers, holiday commitments, weather related showing challenges. So we live in New England, everyone. So that does impact some of your showings. Economic timing. So mortgage shifts, job market announcements, and local development changes. So those are some economic timings as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that you said before that, oh, with the winter and the seasonality of like the winter month and you know, sort of getting around the weather, right? So navigating the weather. It can be difficult,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things if you're planning an open house and we end up, first of all, you can do a 10-day forecast, right? So you can sort of see what the weather would potentially be like. But if the open house gets canceled, guess what? People sort of understand.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to be upset. And this is
Yeah.
how I feel about open houses, by the way. Maybe we should just do a show on open houses. Do they really? I mean,
Do they really sell a
do
house?
they really sell a house? That can we do that next week? Do
We
open
can.
houses really sell a house? Because I feel as if a buyer really interested in a house, what they call?
Yeah. I think what's is the listing agent.
Mm. Yeah, that's sort of my jam. I like that.
Yeah. So, I want to touch upon micro markets.
Okay.
So, the micro market nuances. So, let's say that there's a home in, we'll say Hanover. So, Hanover, it may go under agreement very quickly, but a very, very similar house in their town may take a little bit more time. So,
Hmm.
that's the micro market nuance. So, the appeal to that Hanover market might be higher than the appeal to another around town's market.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that there's any difference in the homes. It's just where the thing that you can't change about it, which is the location.
Hmm. And it's interesting too because when we see that migration, I mean, we saw it big time during COVID, right? One of the things like right now, Marshfield, let's just say Marshfield. I've noticed the prices in Marshfield have definitely I should do some research on them higher and higher and higher, right? And for that four-bedroom colonial with the two garage, with, whatever they're looking for, if that person can't fit in Marshfield and they're priced out, that's when we start to see migration
Yeah.
into Thailand. So it was interesting to me because recently, I do have a client that is looking in Marshfield, and a property came up, and a couple properties we've actually looked at. We've actually put in a couple offers, and there's multiple offers on them. But then randomly a few weeks ago, I got something from Hanover, and I was like, "Huh." So you would she like was if we bought this house in Hanover, it has more than what the house in
Mhm.
Marshfield had. All we're doing is moving by 3 miles,
Yeah.
right? And you have to be willing to do that. Of course, it comes into a lot of conversations if you have children or not.
Well, we talked and saw a lot of this during COVID, where there was such the inventory and so many buyers, and a lot of it had to do with the interest rate and being able to sort of afford more.
Mhm.
Um, that they expanded their search from, okay, I only want Pembroke, to okay, like, yeah,
Mhm.
Hanson, Hanover, extending it out and
Mhm.
just having that ability to go into another town and potentially get for your buck.
Yeah, and there was a recent conversation I was having with some of my friends throughout the country, and we were talking about how Trump had come out with potentially we should have a 50-year mortgage, and you know, there's pros, there's cons, there's whatever. I mean, the interest that you would inherit or get from that is huge, but how many people actually stay in their original, mortgage anyways? But my thought was on all of this, I took a sort of a different approach, and it's like, well, it will make it more affordable for buyers. They can stretch out, another 20 years. They can stretch out their mortgage, which will make their mortgage payment less. At the end of the day, they're more in interest. But then my thought was And what buyer is actually gonna do that? Because as soon as a buyer can afford more, then they're going to hit their max. I don't know
Yeah.
what that psyche is, or the psychology of that is, where people just don't say, "Oh, look, this is a great opportunity to stretch it out, live affordably, be in a decent house." They're gonna be like, "Oh, now I can stretch myself even further with a 50-year mortgage and still be in the same situation."
Yeah. So let's talk about home sale contingencies as well. Or I'm sorry, I wanted to talk about the impact of poor timing. So timing the market. So a poor timing. So hitting the market during a distracted period. So that may result in fewer showings and reduce urgency. So I would think a distracted period would be 4th of July weekend. I would think that any like major holiday, that like whole
Mhm.
entire week, I feel like some people take a
Yeah.
step back and say, okay, I'm going to live my life for a minute and then go back to my
A
search.
and depending where the house is. I mean, if you have a house down in Falmouth, I'd say that the perfect time to put that on the market is 4th of July, right?
Yeah.
So, that's what I mean. Everything depends, and as buyer's agents and seller's agent, we should know. But as you were saying that, I think I'd probably look at every single listing and say, "Oh, the reason why this one is still on the market is because they came on the market during 4th of July, or they came on this week in June, and that's when we had a lot of graduations going on," and you know what I mean, where people are distracted with that type of stuff.
Yeah. Can we talk about how home sale contingencies sort of slow?
Home sale contingencies, I think as a listing agent, I try my best to, help my clients get an offer that is, doesn't have, an offer that the person doesn't have a home sale contingency, but it's really hard to do for a couple of reasons. One, the majority of people can't just buy a house without selling the one that they're already in. Or secondly, they don't want to commit to selling their house until they know that they have commitment from somebody else to buy their house. So there's all these different things that you have to sort of, I think of, what is this called? Seesaw?
Yes, you
Yeah, you have to like level it
weigh your
out.
options.
Yeah, weigh your options. Um, but he's a little bit of a quick person. One of the things I hate about home sale contingencies when I'm a listing agent. So what a home sale contingency is for everybody is, my house, one of my listings, the offer comes in, they have to sell their house in order to buy this house. Now, as a buyer's agent, every smart buyer is going to leave that very open ended. Every listing agent is going to do the opposite. Every listing agent is going to say, "All right, I'm going to give you 2 weeks to get your house on the market and get an accepted offer. In 2 weeks, we'll revisit where you are." And
Mhm.
then we can take it from there, right? Sometimes people will do 3 weeks or a month or whatever it is. That's what's called negotiation,
Mhm.
right? That's between the buyer and the seller. The problem I have is I'm not in control of that other listing.
Yeah.
So, and unless you know the other agent, you don't know, are they putting everything into it? Are they really advising their client the right way? I had a situation this year where the agent was telling me one thing and I was finding out something completely different. Oh, what we're going to be putting that on market for 515, and then I go on the and I see it's on the market for 545. Like there's a big huge difference there. So I have a problem with that because I'm putting confidence in somebody else
Mhm.
to get their house sold in order to get my house sold. And then when I'm holding up my listing, that's why I only like to do it in like 2 week increments, because I don't want to lose any marketing time.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to the home sale contingency from a seller's perspective, they've done what they've needed to do to get their house sold, but now it's depending on somebody else selling their house.
Hmm.
And you get to a certain price point where you sort of expect someone might need to sell something in order to buy
Yeah.
your property. And, we see it a lot with the higher priced homes or, homes with in laws. And, you're sort of blending that family and coming together. You sort of have this thought of, okay, we've done everything to get this property sold. Now it's up to a third party to get another property sold in order for us to move
Mm.
forward in our timeline.
And when you get an offer, when that person gets an offer on that other house, it's like, well, did they have a house to sell too?
Yeah.
So, and I have to say, like right now, I am in a transaction transaction with somebody where my listing, the, the the agent on the other side with the buyer has put their client's house on the market, and she has been so great to work with. She has been so really like forthcoming, so transparent. This is one of Kristen Howlett's big things that we talk
Mhm.
about behind the curtain, let's say, like when we're all alone and off, and we're talking about just different things that happen in real estate. And a lot of times we're like, what is the big secret? Just tell us the truth. Like, negotiating isn't supposed to be about hiding things. It's about trying to bring our clients together. And this agent has done such a really, really, really good job of keeping me abreast of what is
Mhm.
going on with
Mhm.
the other listing, and even just, when I came back and I knew we had the holidays and everything, and I was in Dallas for a few days, um, I had reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, I know that our home sale contingency on the condo is expiring on the 28th. I figured I would just catch up, see where you are with it." She was like, "Yep, this is, yeah, blah, 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 blah." And actually, she reached out to me first on that one. It was, I reached out to her and just said, I wanted to let her know, "Hey, just one," and now I'm participating.
Mhm.
"Hey, just to let you know, there's a contacted me in the appraiser on New York when they got home on the month she's selling. I tell you, the hall, of course I understand. I'm actually just so super excited that you're telling anything. Usually it's like
Yeah.
pulling teeth, you know? So,
Mhm.
oh yeah, oh, should I have a home inspection? Oh, I check in with the
Uh-huh.
buyer's agent.
Oh, I know.
The thing we want to say, we want to do our own
Yeah.
podcast on the things the poop
After
you
hours.
actually really want to say.
Yeah, seriously. The things that we say in private.
Yeah. One of the things, if we could go back a little bit, because as you were talking, and I know we have a big agenda and you're trying to get through it and you're doing a great job at that. But when you were talking about like, certain criteria that you think about, like putting the house on the market for 4th of July and everything, like those sort of things that we can maneuver, right? Like, hey, why don't we hold off until the week after? Or
Mhm.
what, you know what I mean? Those, with those seasonal or holidays or whatever I want to call it, that happen consistently throughout a year. One thing that we can't control is the uncertainty of other down.
Mhm.
I That definitely went brakes sort of went on for everybody there, because buyers were like, whether they worked for the government or not, it puts this sort of, all I can think of is Charlie Brown with Linus, and like, like the dust all
Dust.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait until that all settles before I make a decision, because
Mhm.
I don't have confidence in the market right now.
That's Pigpen, by the
Oh,
way.
Pigpen, thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome.
Oh, Linus is the one that
He's
has
got the blanket.
he has the
Yeah.
blanket. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pigpen. Oh, yeah, that's so funny. You're so good at that stuff.
That's Pigpen.
I would, if we had a sound for that, he
Yeah.
would have put it for sure.
Well, we've talked about this a number of times of, the first year of a presidency is always sort of,
Mhm.
um, we don't sort of know where people are going to go,
Mhm.
and what they think. It's some people feel uneasy, some people don't. So it's always sort of a strange year of
Mhm.
adjusting to the sort of new norm, I guess.
Yeah.
So when things like a government shutdown, where you can't really predict that that's going to happen or how long it's going to
Or no
be,
control.
or
Exactly.
control, you sort of get like a halt, like, okay, so our first thought was, okay, how does this impact the people who are already under agreement, or the people who
Mhm.
were showing houses to and have to affect home loans and or
And it
refinancing.
did. I mean, it did. I mean, people who had like a lock rate for
Yeah.
certain types of government loans. I mean, if you had a USDA loan, right? That shutdown definitely impacted
Yeah.
you. But that's what I mean about like uncertainty of, you always, and this is one of the things, and I don't know if it's a good thing about me or a bad thing about me. And I'm sort of, I thought about it the other day, because actually with my dad and the stage of where he is with his dementia, and in another lifetime, like I'm going to be a candy striper and help those nurses. God love them. They all get a
Mhm.
token directly to heaven in my eyes. But anyways, you know, you there's certain things that are going on with him, and I'll choose. That's how I real estate too. Like,
Mhm.
and I'll always say to my clients, and sometimes I tell them what I'm thinking, and sometimes I don't. But sometimes I'm thinking, okay, this affect anything that's going on with me? I'm always looking 2 steps ahead because I already want to have the answer if that should happen. If it doesn't happen, the only person's mind I've sort
Yeah.
of fluffed up a little bit is my own.
Yeah.
But I was prepared.
And there's also so many different factors. So something that I learned during this government shutdown was, anybody receiving certain benefits
Yeah.
or receiving, retirement or anything like that. There's certain interest rates that go into how much you get
Mm.
for that. And if the government wasn't releasing those interest rates, then your payment was being delayed, and that could have a effect on how much you can be able to afford and things like that. So it was definitely something that I learned over that time, but again, something that is sort of a factor. Like, okay, so why was this property on the market for so long? Why is there
Yeah.
no buyer? 'Cause, people might not be able to afford it right this second.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, people will say that to me all the time. And like I said, I had a conversation just yesterday with one of my clients that's looking down in that Plymouth area. And, well, why had it already been on the market for 60 days? Why is it on for another 30 days? What's going on with it? And I was like, well, from what I can see, they haven't had a price adjustment. So my mind is already telling me, okay, they don't really close till like the end of next spring, or the beginning of next spring. So are they snowbirds? Like, you start to sort of think
Mhm.
about like what is their scenario so you can better help your client. What comps are they using? Why are they on the market for this much? How come they haven't had a price adjustment? What's their motivation? Like, there's just so many things and factors that we have to think about.
Yeah. Uh, talk, talking about things that we have to think about. Can you explain what the actual clause is?
So with the 48-hour kickout clause, it's one of those things where I can understand for buyers why they're hesitant to do this. And as a listing agent, I understand why I have to put certain things in line for my client to protect them. So a 48-hour kickout clause would be my client has their house on the market, somebody submits an offer. Maybe it's contingent upon them selling their house, right?
Mhm.
So instead of the seller saying, "Hey, I'm willing to give you 2 weeks," where I tend to do it that way, like I'll give you 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and when I say we're going to give you 2 weeks to get your house under agreement, I know it sounds like it's possible. Like the house I was just talking about, we had 2 offers at the same time, and I was just like, "You're telling me you want to put your house on the market for 3 weeks?" She's like, "They didn't expect this house to come up and blah, blah, blah." I was like, "I can't tell in good conscience, I cannot, as much as I like you as an agent, and I think that this would be a great fit and all the other things line up that would probably be perfect for my client. I honestly can't tell them to wait 3 weeks for you to just put your house on the market."
Yeah.
She literally got it on the market
Yeah.
like, so it's possible to do that, and that's why if you are looking, you never know when the one's gonna come up. Have your house
Mhm.
ready, to do that. I've already forgotten your question. Oh,
48-hour
48-hour
kickout
kickout clause.
clause.
So, for me, I said, "Okay, let's just we're gonna look at this in 2 weeks." Okay? So the first 2 weeks went by, they didn't get an offer on it. So this is me saying to the agent, the buyer agent on my property, who's now the listing agent on that, "All right, how have your showings been? Do you think it's price? What's that been?" It's almost my way of being able to sort of be intricately part of that process, like
Mhm.
where I can ask the questions and get the answers that I need so I can then bring them to my client and they can make the best decision. Yes, we'll extend another 2 weeks, or no. If they're not gonna be realistic, then we're not to. A
Mhm.
48-hour kickout clause would be, "Yeah, we're gonna accept your offer. However, if we get a cash offer with no contingencies that comes forward, then we have the ability to accept that offer,
Yeah.
not just because it's more money, by the way, but we have the opportunity to take that offer, and you have 48 hours to drop your home contingency."
Yeah. Which some people can't. I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't
some
really.
people, with like I said earlier in the show is, there gets to a certain price point where you sort of expect that someone might have to sell a home in order to afford it. So if you get in that situation with the 48-hour kickout clause, can that buyer really drop their contingency if they can't afford to purchase it with cash or anything that they have, or even with financing without selling their current home.
Yeah, and the thing is the situation, I can understand from a seller's perspective why that makes really good sense to them, especially whatever their motivation is. If they're like, "Hey, I have a new job in Chicago, figure it out." You know what I mean? Like, I can't be waiting forever. But I have clients who are just like, "I don't have to sell my house. I want to sell my house.
Mhm.
I want to downsize. I want to upsize, whatever it is." But I also think when I'm the listing agent, I'm pretty hard on the buyer of my listing. Like, all right, we're not going to wait until you get your house under agreement in order for you to do all the other.
Yeah.
You're going to have your home inspection. So you're going to invest money into this. Like,
Yeah.
why should my client be the only one taking risk right now?
Yeah.
Have your home inspections, sign the purchase and sales agreement, have your escrow deposits in front of us and with us. And then with the 48-hour kickout clause, I think for buyers, it's it's a little more risky for them. They're like, "All right, I'm gonna spend all this time, energy, and money," but what the seller is actually saying is, "If something better comes along, I'm gonna take it." They're not really gonna give me
Yeah.
the opportunity. So if I was to do a 48-hour kickout clause, if I was the buyer's agent, I would reverse what I do now because I have confidence in myself as a listing agent. So if my client had something to sell and they wanted to put a 48-hour kickout clause on me, I would potentially say, "How about you give me 2 weeks to try to get this house under agreement? If I can't get it under agreement within those 2 weeks, then we'll do a 48-hour kickout clause."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at
Mhm.
least give my client some opportunity to sorta win.
Yeah, and as a buyer's agent, if your buyer is thinking about seeing a property that already has a 48-hour kickout clause on it, but it's been like that for a while, ask the question of where they're at in the process. Okay, how come it's, this went, with the 48-hour clause 3 weeks ago? Where are you in that process?
Mhm.
Um, but getting back to days on market, I want to talk about pricing the home based on its true condition, how that affects days on market.
Mhm. Well, and I do think that, in certain markets that we have, seller mentality and the seller psyche is what switches. Not so much the buyers, it's more so the sellers. And it obviously depends. Are we in a seller's market where we have less than 3 months inventory that will take us, to sell the absorption rate? Or is it a buyer's market where the buyers are like, "Oh, I'm going to eeny, meeny, miny, mo. This is the house I'm going to go for," right?
Mhm.
Um, with the days on, oh, so like with pricing strategy, there are people that will say, "I'm just going to tell you what happened."
Yeah.
So that was is before the consumer didn't have the ability to just go online and find out how much a house sold. So like one of my clients that I'm working with right now, they're like, "I don't think the house is worth what they are because I found 5 other houses that sold in this area that were a lot less," right?
Yeah.
So we have the ability to do that. So the sellers are sort of testing a market that's sort of thing.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is people before be like, "Oh, let's ship them for this. Let people throw me an offer."
Yeah.
Right? Like throwing you up against the wall. It sticks. Back in the day, it may have, but now it doesn't. Now it's, "Hey, let's just wait until the seller gets realistic
Yeah.
because this is not a really good selling price." Here's a little fun fact that I found out one day last week, this week, I don't remember what day, but I was talking to my friends on Clubhouse, and my friend Cindy from Utah, who has actually come on the show with us a couple times here, she was telling us about Zillow
Mhm.
in, in her area. And I noticed this in Texas. Remember the house that we bought?
Mhm.
It doesn't show the sale price.
Mhm.
So there are these non-disclosure states. There's I forget how many there were. Someone looked it up as we were talking. I want to say, let's just say 10 of non-disclosure states where they cannot list their own out there. Can't be on Zillow. So it isn't just Zillow. It's Zillow, it's realtor.com, it's homes.com. Not the only knows what the house sold for is the buyer, the seller, their agents, the attorneys or title state or whatever, the title company. And that's it.
Why?
they don't it's I don't well, it's actually good. I think it's good for them as real estate, that I don't know, they call it a non-disclosure state.
Interesting. I feel like you'd get a lot of calls of how much did this property sell for?
Yeah,
And
probably.
think about when you're doing your CMAs, like you're going to be giving that information to your potential seller because
Yeah,
that's how you do a CMA is
yeah,
you tell them what. So it's interesting.
but that means that the seller needs the agent
Yeah.
more so than just being able to
So I
go
wonder I
online.
wonder how low their for sale by owner like rate is.
Well, probably not as high as ours
Yeah.
because they can't figure it all out. And then one of the questions I had is like, how do they do a Zestimate or how do they, the algorithms of all these different websites like homes.com, realtor.com, and they're like,
Yeah.
this is the value of your house. They're using tax information and assessment information versus what else has sold in there. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and even so, like, they haven't been like, the town doesn't go into your home and say, "Oh, you've done this and you've
Yeah.
done that."
Well, some towns do.
Well,
Some towns do.
some towns.
Yeah, but for the
For the
yeah,
most part, no one's knocked on my door yet,
yeah.
so
So
to ask what.
and that's the thing too is like if people are doing improvements and things like that, you can't see it. And I feel that way even now, even though we have to get inside the house. We do a two-stop CMA.
I always think that it's interesting when, you're talking with somebody about a property that is probably similar to theirs that has come on the market, and their response is, "Oh, mine's better. Mine's better."
Yeah.
And I wanna be like, "Well, why? Why do you believe so?"
Well, you know my term.
Like,
Nobody has an
'cause
ugly
nobody has an
baby.
ugly baby.
Nobody has an ugly baby. And one of the things I was looking at down here was specific things that, that sort of prevent a home from maybe selling is, the layout and the floor plan.
Mhm.
And I would say, one of the big things was, oh, I want an open floor plan, right?
Mhm.
And then, so like the older homes were struggling a little bit. Then when we had COVID, everyone's like, listen, I need some walls
Yeah.
because I can hear
Yeah.
them doing math, I can hear them doing history, and I'm trying to work on the phone while my husband's also doing something on the phone. So I think that this level has a lot to do. And I got to tell you, Mackenzie showed me some layouts of some houses that I couldn't believe. The layout of it had like sunken, like bump, bump, like type setup.
A sunken what?
Living room area around a fireplace, and it was all couches, and they were
Uh,
all white couches, and you could
yeah.
tell like someone had spilled the bourbon on it or
Yeah.
something.
You
It
could
was
film a
just
movie there.
yeah. Yeah. One I wouldn't be watching, by the
Yeah.
way. Was yeah, but the layout definitely has a lot to do with it. But you know what else comes into play? And I'm thinking about what somebody else I was showing a house to, and we're in the car, and I generally don't have my phone with me, but I did say to them, listen, I am waiting for a call from an attorney. That
Mhm.
is the like, so if they call, I do have to take that call, and they understood 100%. And the call came, we were in the car, I pulled up to the front of the house, and when I hung up the phone, they said, do we even have to go into the house? And I was like, no, if you feel as if you don't like it now, like there's no reason for us to go
Yeah.
inside. I was like, but that's why. They're like, we are not looking at that. The
W
house across the street
Oh, yeah.
was the reason the house they didn't
Yeah.
even want to go into
Yeah.
it. It could have been perfect. It could have had every single thing they wanted, but they're like, I'm not looking out my window to look at that.
Did you leave that feedback?
Yeah. I'm honest with
Yeah.
feedback. You can't make what's wrong right unless you know what's wrong. I don't
Yeah.
take it personally when people give me feedback and they're like, well, and I was like, I don't live there.
Yeah.
You're not hurting my feelings, but I can't make what's wrong right for my client if you don't tell me what was wrong.
Yeah. I think busy roads are also, for a certain demographic, it might not work for them.
Mhm.
A lot of the times, if a seller is living in a home with, a busy road or anything like that, it worked for them and it was
Mhm.
fine for them. But there might be a certain demographic that's like, no, we want to stay away from that. We want a neighborhood. We want a cul-de-sac. We want something like that.
And there is a certain demographic that maybe the busy road is okay. Like I find a lot
Yeah.
of like my first responders and, a lot of people who are self-employed, they tend to feel they're like, I don't want to be in the cul-de-sac. I don't
Yeah.
want everybody, the person up on the hill looking in my living room window saying, oh, I like your new sofa. True story.
Oh.
It wasn't a sofa, it was a chair.
Oh.
Called
Okay.
the person across the street and said, oh, I noticed that you have a new chair.
Yeah, I know. Go on and on and on. But
Yeah.
final thoughts on why properties stay on the market?
Yeah, so I guess I'm just going to say it depends. It really does really depend. It depends on the seller's motivation. It matters on what is going on in the world at that time. Seasonality could have something to do with it. Uh, Motivation could have something to do with it. Unrealistic sellers could have something to do with it. So the most important piece I can say out of this whole entire show is make sure that you have a buyer's agent that is the type of agent that is very hands-on, that's going to make the phone call to find out exactly why is that house on the market, because that's what I'll say to people when they call me. Hey, you might have noticed that we were on the market then off the market. This is the reason why.
Yeah.
So make sure you do that. But if you want a great buyer's agent, as you know, we have many of our agents join us here on the show. So we would connect with them. Boston Connect 71 that open house this weekend. The holidays may be near. You need to buy a home.
You can get in before the holiday.
You just go to Cushing Trails 10 to 12 Saturday and Sunday. Sublin Birmingham this weekend, or Coach Bridgewater 10 to 2, and Mary Horton and Kristen Howlett are going to be there this weekend. So go find them.
Yeah, you can go to bostonconnect.com to find all of our contact information and any of our past shows. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
See you
everybody.
guys next
Bye,
Saturday.
Tim. Have a great one.
Like you, I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood